Welcome back to lecture 4.2. Oh my. Let's see if I can find a marker. Okay, lecture 4.2, where we're going to continue our discussion of processes and we're going to discuss PV diagrams. I'm also going to end up calling these indicator diagrams sometimes. But I'll probably generally call them PV diagrams. Now, I wanted to make a note at this point. So this is lecture 4.2. In lecture 2 and 3, we basically covered chapter 1 of Finn's thermal physics. That's the chapter on temperature. And now we're going to be discussing, so that was temperature and temperature scales. And now we've moved on in chapter 4 here to chapter 2. Sorry, in lecture 4 to chapter 2, reversible processes and work. Okay, so we're going to cover chapter 2 here in lectures 4 and lectures 5. Okay, so now that you, just as a little reminder, so you can keep up in the book. Okay, so we've been talking about work over the last time. We talked about how we could have adiabatic processes, isothermal, isobaric, isochoric. And you know, these various processes were how we connected between various thermodynamic states, right? So we can show these on these PV diagrams, right, or indicator diagrams. And so they're called PV diagrams because their axes are P and V. Okay? So what we mean is that V is the independent variable here and P is the dependent variable, right? So the points on these graphs are our states, right? So here, remember, because if I've fixed pressure and volume, right, this is imagining a function that has three thermodynamic variables, but only two are independent, right? So that if I've told you two of them, that my third one is fixed, right? So this is some state which is governed by our, so this is some state, right? And this is some state. And then the states are going to be connected by, so these are our states, and this would be some process. Okay. Now, the states are, of course, defined by our thermodynamic variables, but how do we understand how our processes are governed, right? So our states are governed by our thermodynamic variables. And our processes are governed by our equation of state. Okay, we're going to write this so often that I'm just going to write EOS, our equation of state. Okay, now, one important note here, something to think about, is that, again, our equation of state was only valid if we were in equilibrium, right? So our equation of state was only valid in equilibrium. But by doing a process, we're clearly out of equilibrium, right? We've disturbed our system, right? So how do we imagine this? Well, we imagine these quasi-static processes, right? So we said the important idea or concept was a quasi-static process. Okay, so a quasi-static process means that we're always infinitesimally close to equilibrium so that our process can be defined by our equation of state. Okay, so that's a key idea. Okay. Okay, now, is this always true? Well, you can imagine our scenario of our ideal gas, right? Imagine our ideal gas in a piston, right, with adiabatic walls. Okay, imagine it two ways. One, so here, let's just draw it. So we're going to have our adiabatic walls. Have a piston. It's also adiabatic. There's some pressure, volume, temperature. I'm going to apply some force, right? So let's imagine that that's some state now, state 1, right? And now what I'm going to do is I can imagine, very slowly, quasi-statically compressing it, right? So that I can follow my process on my indicator diagram because it's following my equation of state. Now imagine where I don't do that. I do the opposite scenario. I just plunge my plunger rapidly, right? My entire system is swirling and out of equilibrium, but eventually I wait long enough, it settles back down into equilibrium. Okay? Now, because it's an ideal gas, because my walls were adiabatic, I didn't exchange any energy with my outside environment, so in this example, my final state is actually identical, right? So even though I didn't do a quasi-static process, because my final state is identical as if I had done in a quasi-static process, then I can still imagine drawing this process as if it were quasi-static, okay? So we're going to take that exception to that rule occasionally, all right? So that's an important concept, and I want to actually have this lecture sit by itself. So if you need to revisit that concept, you can come back and just watch this one. Okay, so now we're going to stop, and we're going to go on to lecture 4.3, where we're going to do some examples of the work in these quasi-static processes. Okay, up next.